Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage Miss Cosmo Indonesia.
Dan inilah penampilan dari Salma Ranggita dalam agenda Cosmo Green Summit by Nam Abeng.
First and foremost, I would like to say thank you so much. And I would like to introduce myself. My name is Salma Ranggita Cahyariani. I graduated from Metallurgical Materials Engineering. And today I'm going to show you my presentations, the story that became a turning point in my life. Indonesia contributes 22.7% of the total mangrove ecosystem worldwide. Wow, we are one of the largest. And yet we produce this fruit called pedada fruit or mangrove apple that oftenly discarded because people doesn't have discovered the full potentials yet. So it become a waste. So it's leaving the coastal families with zero economic value with the land that they protected. Others are ways, I saw possibilities, where we can turn these pedada fruits that considered as a waste into something valuable, which is the flowers that have already been put it there, that is having the 0% gluten, and also implementing the circular economy and the waste to wealth theory. But now that I give the questions pop up in my head, is that the abundance of the mangrove products, and secondly, how this is scientifically proven, how this is feasible, how this could be done. So this is the story begin. I lived 12 years in an inclusive school, so I have many friends that suffered with disabilities, one of which is autism and Down syndromes. And one day, I was just sitting on the school canteen, munching on some cookies. But then I saw my friend, we can call him Alex. He suffered with autism. He rebelled and he insisted to eat the cookies that were sold in canteen, but he cannot. Why? It's because people with autism, they cannot digest gluten really well. It causing them inflammations and reactivity. This breaks my heart into pieces because he struggled for something that is really simple, something that we consume every day, which is just a cookies or anything that contains gluten. It breaks my heart so that I conducted a research in 2018. Turns out that these pedada fruits, it can turn into a flour, and a flour it can turn into a consumable product such as like the cookies and then any other like noodles and breads. It has 0% gluten, and it's scientifically proven by the gravimetric test analysis and also the qualitative data that we made from the sensory market acceptance. Next. Now, how this is strategically implemented, how this could be feasible, how could this, what's the strategy, how could the managements? Now we're going to implement the human-centered system, where we are going to provide a new landscape jobs for the fathers of the coastal families. Now they gain the new jobs by harvesting the pedada fruits, and then economic empowerment for the women or the mothers.
15 seconds left.
Or the mothers across the coastline for them to build the SMEs for economical power and the impacts for the kids that suffered with autism. Now this is the trajectory for our financial investments, where by just $2,000 you can invest on my projects. Where
Thank you very much, Miss Cosmo Indonesia.
we're gonna break even at 5 months, and this is the profit.
And now it's Q&A section, ladies and
Berikutnya sesi Q&A bersama dengan para dewan juri.
give the question.
Wow, now Miss Cosmo Indonesia, it's time to breathe. We have so many information, and I assure you that we all have seen all of the presentation beforehand. So once again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And it's very touching for me. However, what do you think it is the biggest barrier to reach to success for your project? Is this because of the pedada was taken for granted, or is the underlying issue the minority?
I see.
Yeah, so would you mind elaborate on that for me, please?
Thank you so much, Pimo, for the questions. I think it could be both, because the inclusivity in Indonesia, 1 out of 100 kids suffered with autism, and it breaks my heart to see this because they struggled for something that is simple, which that is the one that is minority. And aside of that is also the pedada fruits, because we have the second longest coastline in the world, Indonesia. We produce this fruit massively, but it's still look in one-sided eye because it doesn't. They haven't found the how to turn it into something that is valuable. So it has zero economic value. So Indonesia, if you find pedada fruit, you can buy it for free because they don't value it yet, because they don't know how to produce it. It rotten and it falls to the coastal lines, and doesn't know how to produce it for the people. And so that the initial state is that I want to bring creating a system, an ecosystem where the father, they can gain a new jobs by harvesting the pedada fruits. And then we turn these pedada fruits into something valuable by the mothers. They could create the SMEs, small medium enterprises. They could turn this pedada fruit into something valuable, such as the pedada flowers that have 0% gluten. And the impacts will be gained by the children that would want to have a nutritious foods that is accessible and affordable, because we have a market competitor analysis too, and we're going to sell this pedada flour for 200 grams that is way 50% cheaper than the regular market that we have in public. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Salma. Well, I do have another question. I can definitely see this project being implemented, first thing first, in Indonesia. But where do you insert yourself in this project? Like, what is your role? How do you actually prove your work in this project?
Okay, thank you so much for the questions, Kak Tata. How do I prove myself in this project is when I was in high school, I was getting the experience to actually look up for Pantai Indah Kapuk, which is one of the ecotourism for mangrove. And when I go there, I was like, I smell bad things, like, where does it came from? And they said it was coming out from this pedada fruit. And the people are struggling because firstly, they were fishermen, but then they lose their jobs because they're implementing the mangrove trees there. And they don't know how to gain more incomes. And that's why I talked to the people, to the pedestrians there. How can I help you? And they said, we didn't have any resources other than planting the mangroves. So what are the solutions regarding this? I was taking the fruits out of the mud because it was like separated on the muds, and I bring that home. And I think that this fruit can turn into something valuable. So I conducted my research. I'm a scientific student. I also graduated from metallurgical materials engineering. So I really have this mindset to have like a rigorous research visions for me to bring innovations that could bring a meaningful impact towards the society. So when I bring that home, this fruit, it turns out it has 0% gluten. And I already proven that by lab. And it can be seen by the research test analysis. And we also see the nutritious as well by having phytochemical analysis as well.
Salma tampil bersama dengan para top 26 lainnya.
Congratulations to Miss Cosmo Indonesia.
Pengumuman top 10 Cosmo Green Summit by Nam Abeng untuk Salma Ranggita. Para top 10 lainnya diantaranya wakil dari Singapura, New Zealand, Cuba, Nepal, South Africa, Namibia, USA, Dominican Republic, dan wakil tuan rumah Vietnam.
For this round, ladies and gentlemen.
Penampilan Salma di top 10 Cosmo Green Summit by Nam Abeng.
Tata, please.
Okay. Hello, Salma.
Hello, Kak Tata.
How's your injuries?
It's getting better, I guess.
Okay, well, glad to have you here with us today.
Thank you.
And here's my question. In a world where social impact is increasingly used as a personal brand, how do you ensure that impactful beauty remains about service to communities rather than self-promotion?
Allow me to repeat the questions. In a world where social impact is increasingly used as a personal brand, how do you ensure that impactful beauty remains about service to communities rather than self-promotion? You have 10 seconds to think. Your 60 seconds start now.
We can understand that sometimes social impacts may be interconnected with somewhat lies, because much of the people, they use social impact as a form of branding. But now we understand that there's the sustainable development goals, and yet to attain those transparency and accuracy, we have several data managements and also technical abilities. In this case, I'm gonna use this technical analysis using SROI, or a social responsibility return on investment, which in this case it was made because of there's the OECD and also GRI is a standard metrics to use the transparency when it comes to social impact, so we can measure our impacts in a future that is more accurate. And in this case, I'm gonna use this matrix specifically to implement the transparency and accuracy for the people, so that people might not misunderstood for the impacts that they created, and it will be more transparent, and it will be more communicate more better impacts in the future.
Thank you
very much,
Salma.
Miss.
Hello, I'm Salma Ranggita Cahyariani, your Miss Cosmo Indonesia 2025, and today we just finished to present our pitch deck regarding our advocacy and also projects. So my feeling is a bit, mixed a lot, because I get so emotional when it comes to talking about my projects, because back in Indonesia, I live with people with disabilities for over 12 years, because my school is an inclusive school, so I have many friends that is disabled or have autism or Down syndrome and etc. And it breaks my heart into pieces, because people with autism, they have struggle where they have this diet called gluten-free, CAS-free, so they cannot consume what we consume every day. So yeah, they are craving for something that is simple, maybe just to eat bread, noodles, and those stuff that we eat every day, right? And that's why I'm a scientific student. That's why in 2018, I began to conduct my research. And through rigorous training and research, we discovered that these untapped potentials of fruit called pedada fruits, it can be turned into a flower substitute. They safely be consumed for my friends that are having these disabilities. So today I also listened to many of the delegates with the project that they have, and it's really heartwarming and heart-touching experience I've had, because there's so many girls with brilliant ideas, and I hope that we can make a collaborations and long-lasting.
Kesan-pesan dari Salma Ranggita.
Green energy is not a luxury, it is a necessity. In South Africa, where we experience immense load shedding, which means that we do not have electricity for hours on end, where even in rural areas, they do not have it for weeks on end. It is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It is something that we need for learners to go home and do their schoolwork. It impacts our daily lives, from our education to the way that our parents and our families go to work. Therefore, I am in support of green energy renewable.
Now, as Ms. Hasler, the media comes.
Oh, okay. I would not say that investing into green energy is a bad thing. However, I would say that investing into green energy, that information needs to be accessible to the community as well. Because most of our countries are made mainly of marginalized communities. And when it comes to green energy development and socio-ecological development, we need to be inclusive of that as well.
I believe that inclusivity is something that is needed with regards to everything that impacts our citizens. If we are able to tell our citizens what needs to be done in order to improve renewable energy within our countries, we are not taking away that right, but we are giving them an essential that they need, which is a human right.
I would say that as much as we want to invest in green energy, we also need to see there is socioeconomic inequality globally and not just in one country. Not all countries have access to the information and the resources that they need in order to advance green technology in their countries. And with that, we also want to make sure that we are not marginalizing the marginalized, since they are experiencing that dispute already, and it is a social ill and plight within their country. We want them to have access to information nationally and internationally.
As someone that has been in conversations with the United Nations and having attended the Global 20 Summit and some events, I know that a lot of countries do experience lack of information to improve their renewable energies. However, if we get into rooms and we push awareness for developing countries, we are able to continue that and not only provide them with information, but the sponsors who will be able to improve those countries.
As champion of the World Health Organization and as someone that has ambassadorial positions within my country and has been on multiple international global platforms, I have seen that even though I step onto one international platform, I need to go out and I need to make a difference. It doesn't help to just sit in a boardroom. It doesn't help to just stand on a stage. You need to be willing to gather so many other different companies and countries onto one platform and truly make a global impact.
Adapun Top 2 Cosmo Green Summit by Nam Abeng mempertemukan Miss Cosmo Namibia dengan Miss Cosmo South Africa. Kemungkinan pengumuman sang winner pada saat grand final.
So the last question had to do with green energy development projects in your country, and I chose the subject that's against the question, and so I spoke about how green energy, even though it is applicable in your country, you want to make it accessible to marginalized communities, since our countries are made mainly of marginalized communities. And I've never had a debate ever in my life. This is my first debate that I've ever had. I've always had opportunities to speak, yes, and to have opinions, but to debate about something, it's my very first time, and to think that I came
Miss Cosmo Namibia.
Honestly, the debate was on fire. At some point, I honestly could not believe what was happening, but it was such an honor being able to stand next to a fellow change maker who's doing incredible work. Honestly, I'm super proud of Namibia and I as two African girls who come from Africa doing amazing work, not just for our continent.
Dan South Africa.